Okay, so last week we saw that Yehoshua had been told by Kodesh Baruch Hu to find out by making a lottery who sinned, who caused the death of Ai. And Yehoshua went through the lottery, and the pasuk Yitches here, is based on like Varim. He took the house of Zavdi by the males, by locate, and then finally the lottery came out on Achan ben Kari ben Zavdi and Zerach Lamata Yehuda. So Chazal say that at first Achan did not want to admit anything. A goro, what does a goro mean? Lottery has to fall on somebody. Doesn't prove anything. Could have fallen out if he made a lottery between the two of us, you and me, Yoshua. It would have has come out on somebody too. Might have come out on you. So Yoshua says to him, listen, Pasuk test. Remember Yoshua Achan? It says to Achan, B'ni. That's interesting. He says, my son. It's a term of endearment. Achan is a big Russia, but Yoshua, even though he's going to have to kill him because that's the command by Kodesh Baruch Hu. He wants him to do tshuva. Even a person we have to punish. Want him to do tshuva, want him to die atoned for. Their sin should be atoned for. So therefore, Yehoshua says to him, B'ni, says my son, right? Sim kavna kavod Hashem Elokei Yisrael. Give honor to Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Lord of Israel. The say lo todah, and give him. Now todah we normally mean understand to mean thanks, right? Todah rabbah, thank you very much. But the word todah actually in Hebrew means to admit something. Like the language we use by Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, vidui. Vidui is the same word. To admit a sin is to be moida on the sin. So that's where vidui is committing one person's committed sin, and that's how a person does tshuva. The reason why todah and vidui are connected, or todah meaning confession or admission, and todah meaning thanks, is because the first thing I have to do in order to thank somebody is admit that I owe him something, that he did something nice to me. So therefore the word todah is related to the word, the word todah is thanks, related to the word todah as an admission or confession. So the basic, the basis of Hakaras HaTov is to know that, somebody did something nice to me. Here it's a case of Tein Lo Todah, to say that acknowledge, not thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To thank, acknowledge that HaKadosh Baruch Hu that, he did something wrong. And we know that anybody who says halacha is anybody who does vidui, who admits the sin before they die. The person put to death. The person is supposed to say vidui and say I sin, and may my death be a kapar on my averos. So that's he says, be moideh ani averos, v'agedna li masisa. So tell me what you did. Al tikached mimeni. Don't hide anything from me. So the Mali points out the double lashonis here. It says, Simna kavod laHashem Elokei Yisrael, give honor. V'seino todah, and admit your sin. Honor, admit sin. Hageli masisa, tell me what you did. Al tikached mimeni. Don't hide anything from me. So the pasuk has double lashon here, covenant todah, and here masisa al tikached mimeni. So the Mali picks up on why the double language in both phases. So phrases. So the Malbim says we know that Achan committed other sins. The Cherem was just the tip of the iceberg, and Hashem told that to Yehoshua. So Yehoshua wants to make clear that I know there's more here than just the simple Cherem. He says, "Sing kavod Hashem." First of all, don't reject the lottery. Shayapi Hashem by saying wasn't by Hashem's direction. That's Achil Hashem. Hashem told me to make the lottery. You know Hashem told me to make the lottery. Don't make fun of the lottery. The same lo todah. So before we get that, so the goal is was made to identify specifically who committed the avera of robbing from the cherem. So admit that that's right. That the Gora worked accurately. The Sefer Yehoshua, he's vada al yeser averos, and confess the other sins, because we know Hashem told me this is not the only sin you did. You did other sins. So first, acknowledge, recognize that the lottery is correct, and then acknowledge the other sins which you commit as well, besides the chayim. So now, in the second part of the pasuk, tells us, A, Haged li ma'asisa, tell me what you did. Why tell me? I know what you did. I know you did the chayim, right? But say it. Say it out loud. Say the vidui. Admit the sin, so that whatever happens to you as a punishment will atone for the sin. But besides that, the neged sein lo todah, the second part of it, where he said Hashem, he said, admit the sin, that's really going on other sins. Al terached mimeni, don't hide from me. Yes, aver shasisa, the other aver. In other words, I gave about the sin of the chayim, just tell me, right? And that'll be the video on that. But don't hide from me the other sins. I don't know what the other sins are, because Shmuel told me sin the other sins. So don't hide those from me. Tell me about this one, even though I know. Don't hide from me the other ones. So again, don't make fun of the lottery, right? Because the lottery, Hashem told us we do about the chayim, and then also admit the other sins. Tell me about this sin, which is the admission on this sin, which I know about anyway, because of the lottery, and also don't hide the other sins. Do a video of them as well, so you have kapara on everything. So everything you did wrong will be atoned for. And all this, Yehoshua is saying, B'ni, my son, this is the way to deal with this. You have to pay the penalty. But let's do the penalty in the proper way, so it'll be a kapara for you and a kapara for Am Yisrael. Okay? So Achan admits the sins. Says, Vayar Achan is Yehoshua. Achan answers Yehoshua. But Yomer he says, Amna, indeed, Anochi Chatasi, Hashem, Melukei Yisrael. I sinned to God, Lord of Israel. I sinned this sin, but besides that, I did that and the other thing. In other words, yes, you're right. They're more Averis. This one you've got me for, and the other ones I will now admit to you as well. Okay, so the Malva says, I was chaytin that I took from the cherem, from that the property of Yericho, which is supposed to not be taken as loot. You're right, I took that. Because Moshe. He says, I did other ones as well. Yeah, you're right. It's not the first time I took from the cherem. I took from the cherem in the past as well. It's not the first time that I've taken stuff I'm not supposed to take. I've done it in the past. Okay? But we have he's going, Achan wants, like anybody who sinned, all of us do this. We want to rationalize what we did. You know, we don't want to feel so bad about ourselves. So he wants to explain why he did what he did. So he comes to Latzdikas Atzmo to justify himself, but Kamatomim. It was several reasons. And the first one is in this pasuk. He was already accustomed to Zaver and Naslo Keheter, and became a him like as if it's mutter. I'm going to explain in a second. As I said, I did this time and again. So it's a statement which appears several times in Chazal. As Rav Huna says, Avar v'shana nasis lo keheter. If a person commits a sin once, a person feels bad about it. A person commits a sin twice, a person doesn't feel bad about it, as bad about it anymore. We all know this. The first time we do an Avera, we feel horrible. Second time, okay, it's not so bad anymore, right? Because I'm already used to doing it. So therefore, I get used to doing that Avera, and I fall into a rut, and I'll do it again and again. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, who's a great founder of the Muslim movement in the 19th century, he added that. He said, Chazal say, Avar, L'shana, you do the Avera, and you repeat it, Nasis Loketer. But you already, it seems mutter. He says, but you do it a third time, Nasis Lo Mitzvah. It becomes like a mitzvah by you. In other words, when a person sins enough, a person, not only does he say, oh, it's not so bad, eventually a person makes it a shita. A person says, no, you know what, this is not Avera, this is a mitzvah which I'm doing. Because nobody likes to think about them being themselves as a bad person. Nobody in the world. Even the biggest Russia, he has to find a way to look himself as being a good person. So saying that for a person sins, the person feels bad. Then a person sins the second time, doesn't feel as bad. Then a person sins the third time, and of course the number might be 10, 20, 30 as opposed to 1, 2, 3. But the point is the same. A person says, you know what? I really don't want to feel bad about it. You don't see it consciously, subconsciously. I really don't want to feel bad about myself. So I must say that what I'm doing is, on the contrary, it's a mitzvah to do. It's something which is the Ratzon Hashem I should do. So, but that's what we saw in this edition, which is certainly psychologically true. But it's what the Malbim is focusing on, that is this idea of it's harder to avoid sinning once you've gotten used to it. And that's Achan saying, you know what, this cherem, which I took now in time of Yehoshua, which was the worst one I took, it's true, it was a bad, but you have to understand, I was in a rut. I fell into a pattern. I couldn't get myself out of it. Because I've been doing this for a long time already. Okay, so therefore, for this specific sin, my Aveir is not as great. Okay, but that's not the only justification he gives. He's going to give a few other justifications. Let's see, Pasuk Vav. V'areba Shalom. I saw in the loot of Yericho, Aderes Shinar Achas Tova, a cloak, like a shawl, which comes from Shinar. Shinar is like, so it's today the Golan. Achas Tova, which is very beautiful. Mosayim Shkolim Kesef. I saw also 200 shekel of silver, which is a lot of money. Ushon Zav Echad, and I saw even a ton of gold, so really precious. Chamish Shkolim Mishkol, which weighed 50 shekel. V'achmadeim, and I desired them. V'kochem, and I took them. V'inam Tmunim Ba'aretz, and they're buried in the ground. V'socha Ali, within my tent. V'kesef Tachtea, and the money's underneath it. So it's a little bit strange language here, right? What does it mean? It's in my hand, my tent, and the money's underneath it. Everything's buried on the ground. But then to make what's on top of what? What's on top of what? Who cares? Okay, so let's see what the mom explains here. Mom says, "V'reva shalom." Yan chashafti achar shu shalom. He didn't say v'reva chayim. He said v'reva shalom. Hashem said not to take loot. But Achan said, "Well, look, to me, it looked like loot. It was expensive stuff. We conquered from the enemy. We got it. So it's loot. Why can't I take it? Why shouldn't I take it?" It was, to me, it looked like, again, he's justifying himself. To me, it looked like something which we should be allowed to take. You know, finders keepers. People win to the owner, to the victor belong the spoils. These are spoils of war. Why should I take it? So as they say, since it's loot of war, so everyone should be allowed to take it. And Chazal take a step further. You know, I said, the Rishon Santa said, "Oh, Rishon and Nasis look after." He does the third time. It's like a mitzvah. So he said, and it's a mitzvah too. Well, Chazal say that he said, said in the Torah, you should eat the loot. You will eat the loot of your enemies. So I figured it's a mitzvah of me to take it. Yeah, Hashem said not to, but okay, but Hashem couldn't have meant me, because I was taking it because it's a mitzvah to take the shalei vecha. Okay, so that was his second justification, right? It was shalol, and there's a mitzvah to take it. Not just I became accustomed to Averis, but this one, I had a cheshbon, I was doing a mitzvah, right? Gimel. So I saw Ader Shinar. So Shinar, like I said, is in the Golan, but he says, I'm not sure, I think he's right, I'm wrong. I know, let me rephrase that. He's right, I'm wrong. It's not the Golan, it's from Bavel, which is further away. So it was an important item. It was a shawl which came from Shinar, Shel Melch Bavel, king of Bavel. So it's from within another country. You know, Hashem says, said not to take from the Shalom of Yericho. So I thought, that means what's made in Yericho, I can't take. But it's made in China. Why can't I take it? It's not the Shalom of Yericho. It came from China. So you're saying it's like there's Shinar. It came from Bavel. So I thought, again, it's rationalizing. Well, it's not part of the loot, which is also to take. Chashav shelo hechrim Yehoshua rak mom and Yericho. So Yehoshua only put in a cher on the money of Yericho. Lo bem medina acheres, not something which came from a person from another country. Right? This is important. So therefore, I figured it's okay. Tova. Besides that, I saw it was really good. And here it's just plain Yitzhara. Yitzro hisiu lachmoda sign. Yitzhara pushed him to desire it. And it's very difficult. It says, I have big Yitzhar. It's very hard to overcome. I desired it. I really looked good. Wanted it. That's why I took it. A. Masayim Shkolim Kesef Lashon Zahav. And so here's fascinating. The mom is really fascinating. He says, "Chashav ki matchios einam bichlal achar shebilti omdim lisaref." He said, "Okay, listen. I thought metal is not included in the Yisr. Why is metal not included in the Yisr? Because it's not going to be burnt. You can't burn metal, right? You can burn cloth, you can burn wood, you can burn all sorts of things, but you can't burn metal. So it must be the metal was meant not to be destroyed, but to be given to the Mishkan, or given to Hektish. Okay, so fine. But I was Rak Otzer Hashem was going to go to Hashem's treasury. For other Raka Lavdamila. And you know what? I shouldn't have taken from it. Because, of course, if it belongs to Beis HaMikdash, to have Mishkan, I'm also not allowed to take from it. But that prohibition is a much lighter prohibition. That prohibition is called Me'ilah. When somebody takes something from Hekdesh, you shouldn't have taken it, they're not supposed to take. So Avera they're committing is called Me'ilah. It's an Avera. It's not an Avera which is a capital crime. It's not one for which a person is put to death. So he says, okay, I committed about Avera Me'ilah. I shouldn't have taken something. But it's not as if I took something which is going to be destroyed and prevented from being destroyed, which would have been worse. I took something which was going to be used for the Beis HaMikdash and took it for personal use. That can't be as bad. So he's saying to justify himself. Vav inam tmunim ba'oel. They're hitting my tent. And this also saying to justify himself. Lo ishtamesh. I didn't use them. Lo nana I didn't have any benefit from them. Not only that, because I didn't use them to benefit from them, but zelomah gamke. The aver of me'ilah and hekdesh, of using hekdesh inappropriately, is when I use it or benefit from it. He's saying, and even if I could have been over the aver of me'ilah by using the hekdesh, the money, improperly, I never did. I just hid in my tent. So aver of me'ilah, I haven't yet been over. Had I used the money to buy something or make some fancy garment out of it, then it would have committed me'ilah true. And even that's not a severe sin. But I didn't commit that sin either. Not yet, because once I took it, I buried it in my tent. So I didn't get any pleasure, any benefit from it. Me'ilah didn't happen yet. Right? That says Zelomar Ganki, gold which is not can't become damaged. If you damage hekdesh, then you're high for damaging it. But the gold is not damaged. It's the same gold was before. You don't commit me'ilah until you have a pruta's worth of benefit from the hekdesh, and you get that benefit. Polo and Avlo Pagami didn't have any benefit. He didn't ruin it. So he says, why? That's what he said. The silver was underneath it. Underneath the deres. So the silver, I made sure it didn't get damaged because I wasn't yet ready to violate the aver of me'ilah. So I put the silver underneath this, and presumably the gold as well. You put deep down into the hole, so it's not going to get damaged. So that way, he's never going to. He hasn't yet committed me'ilah because he didn't have any benefit from it, and it was not damaged at all. And with this, also we see the flip side. How Yehoshua is right. Shehenish blo aided. He normally you don't punish somebody without witnesses. In Judaism, normally circumstantial evidence which is not clear cut, but something which you have to understand is probably showing that this guy is guilty is not good enough. So you have to kill somebody. So here, why is it different? Why was Achan put to death, even though there's no aiding that he stole, right? And we know also you don't kill people based on their own confession in Judaism. Unlike secular law, where if somebody comes to court and commits a crime, he's put to death, it's punished, whatever punishment. In Judaism, it doesn't work that way. In Jewish law, and you admit a sin, we don't necessarily believe you. So principle in the Gemara, ain't of them Mesi Matzma Rasha. Person is not believed to say he's a wicked person. So if that's the case, why would Yehoshua be able to bring to death based on his admitting the sin? So the Mom says, because there are too many things going on. Too many things going on. And since there's so many things going on, it's clear that he sinned. He did the evidence is not circumstantial. It was direct evidence. How so? Kibo Kosiman, there are all signs here. Mimahusa davar shenignav. The character thing was just stolen. We know. I can't read this word. I have word up here. Okay, it had three types. In other words, they were able to identify. Well, yeah, Achan, these are things we're missing. I found in Achan's. If we find Achan's tent, like he says, so it's clear he took it. You don't need any other evidence. You don't need witnesses to tell you this because you found the stolen goods. If you couldn't find stolen goods, so you'd have to rely on either on his confession or circumstantial evidence. Then you couldn't put him dead. But here we found stolen goods in his. There are three types which they knew were stolen. They found in his tent. Of course, they're going to be able to put him to death. Mishkalim also because he knew the weight. Mishkal zav kesef, the precise amount of which is stolen, which obviously they had a record of, and it was the right weight. Obviously, he's the one who took them because they're in his tent. Nobody else could take and put in his tent. Dal may hanachasam, from the way they were put into the hole. And the silver underneath, right? The silver's underneath. So and he says that's the way I put him in there. So clearly he's the one who did it. In other words, nobody else would know it except for him because he actually had taken it. And how do we know that specifically him, maybe some other member of his family who took it? So as they said, the pasuk says, language pasuk is interesting language. It says, back here. Let's say b'toch ha'oel. Doesn't say the tent. It says b'toch ha'oli within my tent, and not just my tent. Ha'oli, my tent. So it's a idea. This specific tent, which is my tent, and the bus is stressing that because it says the Malbim. Im idea. Shelo ohel miyuchad, and a special tent which is his own. Cholugim nebesa, which is separate than the rest of his household, only his. So nobody else would put stuff there. And he said, I guess there had two rooms in the tent. Echad Gadol Ikar, and that's which is the main tent. The Tziem Bekinui Oel Shalo. So there it says specifically my tent, Ali, but the Losham Beso, not his people's tents, and Behei. Hey, idea says, and in that tent, it was in my room. It's saying, Oh, Gadol Shalo Hayadua. So I know the mom say it's two different tents, two rooms in the tent. But if it's the same tent, it's just the tent. The thing will be the same thing as long as it's only his tent. But okay, the mom is saying it's his tent, my room. So we know for sure he's the one who took it. There's no doubt about it. So therefore, as a result, the rest of the pasuk basically tells us what happens here. It's the parak. It says, Yehoshua Malachim, Yehoshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent. I guess they ran because they didn't want anybody else to get there first and tamper with the evidence. And they found it was hidden in his tent. And exactly the way he said was with the silver underneath. They took everything from the tent for Yehoshua. They brought him to Yehoshua. They saw, and all the Jews asked Hashem, and they put him out before Kodesh. So see, Hashem, you want it? Here it is. We got it back for you. He took Achan, he took the silver, Besaderis, and the shawl, and this silver tongue. That's Banav Espinosa, and his sons and his daughters, Vesharov Eschamaro, and his oxen and his donkeys, his son and his sheep, his olo and his son, his koshel, everything he had. Koisel imo, and all of armies were with them. Vailu osam emekachor, and they took them up to Emekachor. It's interesting because Vailu osam means to go up, and Emek is a valley. So very often when you find that in Tanakh, but the going up to a valley, it means not just not that they physically went up, but they uplifted themselves. In other words, till now they were down in the dumps because the Bezaverov, which held them back from conquering Ai. So therefore, there was an aliyah. They had an aliyah here that they went up to this valley where they're going to kill Achan and atone for the sin. So achar, the word achar means something which is muddy or distorted. So the so it was and that relates to the next pasuk. Yehoshua said, "Ma'achartanu, you muddied us up, you messed us up, you made us dirty. Yargacha Hashem b'yom hazeh. Hashem should make you dirty today. In other words, Hashem is going to should punish you." Right? So all the Jews stoned him. By Sefuah some ba'esh, and they burnt all the loot in the fire. But school some of them, they stoned them with stones. Not it wasn't. They didn't stone members of his household. They didn't stone the members of his household. They stoned all of the animals, because human beings don't get punished unless they sin. And even if you help somebody sin, you don't get killed for helping somebody sin. Even if he's killed, you don't get killed. So, but because he had committed a grave avera, he brought tumah not just to himself, but tumah also to all his possessions. And they have the same halach ba'ir and idachas. We have a city which is over Zara. You don't just punish the people; you also destroy the possessions. So all of his possessions were either burnt; those things had to be burnt. Stoned; those things would be stoned, right? And that way they atoned for that sin. And they put there a big pile of stones. Gadol, till today. There should be a sign for all time. Remember what happened here, and let's be careful in the future. Hashem then was no longer angry at Bnei Yisrael. And that's why it's called Emakachor till today. Remember that we should not have repeat of this. Am Yisrael needs to be careful not to mess up in the way that Achan messed up. Okay, we'll finish the parak. We'll stop here for tonight. Have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.